And we are live. Welcome to this edition of Wealthy Wednesday. It is my honor to be here on this glorious Wednesday. And my name is Leah Garcia, financial strategist, and I'm here to help you properly protect, distribute, and transfer your wealth. And I always say to begin with the end in mind, right? How are you going to distribute and transfer that wealth? Who are you going to leave this legacy to? We work so hard to accumulate these assets and to build all this money, but how do we properly transfer to the people that we love and care about the most? And so that's a big blind spot for a lot of people. So, with that being said, today we're going to talk about the construction industry, which is one of my favorite industries to really help clients with. And today we have, oh my goodness, the man, the myth, the legend. You know him as the troublemaker of the construction industry and the LinkedIn construction newsletter editor. However, I know him as my little brother. And I got to tell you, this man brings so much value. Every single event that I've seen him participate in, or even all the guests that he brings, no matter what industry you're in, you could learn so much, not only from him, but from all of the guest speakers that he highlights in all of his different shows that he curates himself. So with that being said, I give to you Mr. Lance Furuyama. Take it away, Lance.
Wow, what a hell of an introduction. Thank you, Lee. Finance isn't really my strong point, but I figured doing this with you would make a lot more sense. With construction producing so many high earners, not necessarily everybody's a millionaire, but you do have the potential to earn more than you would on a different track and at a faster rate. So as far as like the financial end goes, what I wanted to talk about, and we'll get into the more tactical and actual like financial planning stuff with you. But what I wanted to talk about was, really working on yourself. Like if you have vices, you have certain vices, you have certain things that you just have the wrong mindset around, all it's going to do is scale up that problem, right? If you didn't have money and you're living paycheck to paycheck and, you're just looking for that next fix of something, it could kill you at the end of the day. So really take a look in the mirror, work on yourself. I've been broke, in my early 30s, and as a result of divorce and some other bad investments. And so I know what it looks like to think, man, I'm making all of this money. Where is it? Like I should be planning for retirement, but I'm just trying to plan to get through this year.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Okay, but I want to just highlight a couple of things. You are so right. It begins with the mindset. If we don't put anything in place in our mind, right, to undo a lot of these, let's say, unwise or unhealthy beliefs about money, it doesn't matter how much money we make in a day or a year or how much money we accumulate, it's going to magically leave us. It's just the way the laws of money works. So one thing is we have to turn towards what are our beliefs about money? What did we learn about money? What do we see modeled for us? Did we hear things like money doesn't grow on trees and only rude people are wealthy? So we have to really go through that and understand what that means and do some work. Cassandra Terry, I think she's an incredible mindset coach. She's written a lot of free ebooks that you can download to start to really deal with the mindset of money for sure. And oftentimes what I see with people is they say, oh, you know what? I've got 30, 40, 50 years to retirement. I'll wait until I'm making more money. Well, guess what? If you don't put money away when you don't have it, or you feel like you don't have it, you will never develop that habit once you do. Most people will end up upgrading their car. They upgrade their apartment. They buy a house. They get more toys. And then magically they find that 30 years later, they wake up and they haven't done a thing for retirement. Saving and investing is a habit, just like any other habit. So I say, no matter how much money you're making, if you start with $1, I talk about the power of a penny. If all you have at the end of the month, and we'll talk more about that in a second, is an extra penny, put that away. That penny compounded over a year would turn into over $68 million. So it's not starting with a dollar amount, doesn't matter. It's developing that atrophy muscle of saving and investing. And by the way, most people will save and invest after they spend. Really, the best thing to do is to pay yourself first, right? Make yourself a priority, pay yourself first, and then you will find a way, I promise you, to pay the bills. So hopefully that gave some insight there, Lance.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating and frankly terrifying than making as much money or more than you ever imagined you would, and still somehow being in a bad financial situation and having no more time or capacity to make more. Right? It feels kind of end of the line. You're at the end of the cliff, and like I can see how it drives people to make some rash decisions. Like that totally makes sense to me. But trying to get out of that scarcity mindset more into a thriving mindset. So I did want to share a couple of things with our audience that I've heard. I wish I could cite the sources, but I heard it. I wrote it down while I was driving, and got to be safe. So I wrote it as quickly and as chicken scratchy as I could. But one of the things was, you'll never make $1 more than you believe you're worth.
That's
like,
right.
Let me say that again. You'll never make $1 more than you believe you're worth. If you have to take action, right? It's your own initiative. Nobody looks out for you more than you do. And it all comes down to taking control. Like I heard, you expect $5,000 in your bank account when you log in, and you see that there's $500 there, you're going to have a problem. You're going to go to the bank. You're going to look through your logs and figure out where the hell this went wrong and try to rectify it, because you know that you deserve the $5,000 that you have in there. And that's why don't we take that action to better our life? Right? If you believe $200,000 a year earner, but you're making 1 point, what are you doing to yourself to, get uncomfortable, potentially leave your comfortable position? Like, you cannot say you're worth that if you're not willing to go out and get it. So again, just little notes I've taken, really shifting the mindset so we could get into what Leah brings to the table as far as actual strategy, because you can't have strategy without the right mindset.
Gosh, there's so much good there. And I don't know if it's on my end or your end, but we're kind of breaking up a little bit. Hopefully people can hear us okay. So a lot of what you're talking about is really our identity. If we have a low identity, or we have a certain identity, and we somehow magically come into some money, say you inherit it, or you win it from a lottery, or somehow you pick a good stock just magically, and now you have this, pile of money you never expected to, you will magically spend it away. That's why you hear people who win the lottery, they're broke. And I could say they're broke, but really what happens is they're in more debt just a few years later than they were before they ever had that money. It's because of our identity. It's like a thermostat. If we believe we're only worth $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, or even $1 million a year, that is your cap, that's your threshold. And if you go above that, you will find a way to cool it down. If you're a $100,000 identity and you suddenly now have $250,000 or $500,000 in income, you're going to find a way, that's called self-sabotage, to cool it back down. And I love what you said, taking action. Action, it cures everything. Procrastination, lack, limitations, right? You just have to do it. You have to do something. And as you become busier, that's why you've heard the saying, if you want something done, give it to a busy person, because busy people get it done. If you have all day long to wash the dishes, guess how long it will take you to wash the dishes, right?
All damn day.
That's right. What we have on our list will expand to take the amount of time we're allotted for. It is a rule. It's a law. It's not my law. I didn't make it up. It's just the way it is. But if we said, I've got 30 minutes to clean the house. Suddenly the dishes are washed, the laundry's done, the floor is mopped, the kids are clean, everything's done in 30 minutes because you know your spouse is coming home and they're gonna, be upset if it's not all done. So hopefully that kind of unpacks that a little bit.
Yeah. So let's get into some strategies for people now that we've talked about the ramblings of a madman. Let's
I love the ramblings. You give great ramblings.
yeah, so what did you have in mind? I know you had some things that we talked about.
Yeah, we did kind of talk about some things, and you were talking about like and I really do see this a lot, and I love Dirty Jobs. That guy, I forget his name, Mike, whatever his name, because he brings so much
Micro?
awareness.
Yeah.
Mike, there you go, to this industry that it is a lucrative industry. And what I love is it's so unassuming. You will see somebody who's
Mm.
just got these old t-shirts on, these, same Levi's they wear every single day, and the old boots, and I sit down with them and they open up what they've got and they've amassed a fortune. And so I just love that kind of unassumingness of it, right? They've worked
Yes.
hard for it. And whether they are a business owner or they're a project manager, I think the whole construction industry definitely is probably a blind spot that people don't realize. There are a lot of people who make really good incomes, even as an employee. So, what are some things, some pitfalls that I see? Well, for high income earners, and I'm going to say 150 and above generally. Number one is I see that either they don't have a 401k through their employer, or their employer does not match their funds. So if you don't have a 401k, or you don't get any matching funds through your 401k through your employer, it may not make sense to contribute to that 401k. Now, this is generic advice. You have to sit down individually. I'm just giving you kind of some things to think about. So if you're a higher income earner, you probably want to look at setting aside and setting up your own individual plan outside of your employer. Forego the match if it's not even available to you.
Mm.
And again, it's creating that habit. They say if you want to be poor, pay yourself first, nothing. Keep telling yourself someday, procrastinate, right? If you want to be middle class, pay yourself first 10% or more of your income. And if you want to be wealthy, pay yourself first 20% or more of your annual income. Again, that might
20%.
seem like a lot, but we got to start somewhere, right? So that's one thing I see is not taking advantage or not even starting with their own individual plan. Number two is if they do have their employer plan, that may not be the only avenue for you to save and invest in. Creating other streams of income, because with traditional 401ks, there's rules of when you can take the money out, and there are required distribution rules. If you intend to retire or you need that money before 59 and a half, that may get you into some taxation and penalties taking the money out before 59 and a half. And they're talking about, pushing that date even further down the road. And then if you're over about 250,000, then a lot of things are not even eligible. You're not even eligible for. You may be over the threshold for individual IRAs. So you got to look at other options of where to put money away, to start squirreling money away. So do those kind of resonate with you?
They do. They do. I actually took money out of an IRA once, and damn, that penalty was steep.
Is
Um,
rough.
what are some things we could talk about for people that are maybe 60, 80,000 a year range, and they're trying to level up, right? They might possibly be going to school or training for a new position, but the bills keep coming.
Right.
I know we said 20%, but what are some ways where people are paying their bills, paying for water, and they want to level up? They have every intention of trying to get to that next step. What are some things that they could do?
The foundation really is setting up a budget. Okay. I call it a spending plan. Okay. I know people hate the word. It's a spending plan. We have to look towards our money and really look at where is this money going? because I've seen people who make $60,000 a year and I've seen people who make $60,000 a day. At the end of the day, if you're not tracking your money, it is going to magically go. So it's bringing the awareness to it. And it might seem really simplistic, but if you're spending $3 on something that you could go without, that $3 could be used somewhere else. Remember, it's not the amount, it's really creating that muscle, establishing that atrophy muscle. That's really the biggest blind spot, I'd say, that people just don't track what they're spending. And it's easy to go to the ATM. You feel like you're only taking out $20 here and $20 there. But at the end of the month, that could easily add up to $200 or $300 really easily. So that's number one, is really be aware of. And I resist the word budget because of this. People take that as to be punitive. I never tell a client, you can't go to Starbucks, sell your children, walk to work. I don't ever do that, because that creates what? Resistance. They feel like they're being punished. They feel like they're being judged. That's not how I really like to coach my clients. I say, just be aware, and then let's create a saving and investment plan. Again, starting with, if it's one single penny, I'm good with that. We've got to start somewhere. And then one thing that I think is so overlooked for somebody, let's say making $60,000, $80,000 a year, especially if you have a young family, buy, invest, get some term life insurance. It's the most affordable way to create an estate that has living benefits. So for pennies on the dollar, I just helped a client, I think he's like 33. It might be $200 for $1.5 million in coverage. I mean, that's, really, really affordable if you don't need that much. And by the way, it's not just about if you pass away. If you should get sick or hurt, get a major diagnosis, a major accident. I've had people in my family, my niece was just in a tragic accident and she had 3 vertebrae fused, and she's going to be out of work for probably 6 months to a year. Things happen. If you have a young family and you don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting around that can replace your income, life insurance with term life insurance with living benefits is one of the most affordable ways that you can protect your family if you were to pass away unexpectedly. And also if you were to have a medical condition which prevents you from being able to work and sustain that lifestyle.
Right, and I think that's really helpful, right? We also have a lot of people that don't work during certain seasons because it's either too cold, too hot. And talk about planning and needing to budget. Like, that's real life examples of, if you don't budget now, you won't be eating later.
Yeah, that's the hardest, when it is that ebb and flow. They know they're going to be off during the rating season. When you get this extra income, it's the temptation to just go out and enjoy it is difficult. So, maybe having some type of a job or a business, a side hustle that you can do during those off times can be helpful too. And I think something that really goes unnoticed, especially in that, let's say $60,000 to $100,000 income, owning a business, a side hustle, whatever you want to deem it, is one of the greatest ways to leverage the tax code in your favor by things that you're already doing, right? That's on the tax code. Let's take advantage of that. You're going to go out to eat anyway. Well, now figure out a way to make it, part of a business that you can use it for a write-off.
Oh yeah, I did my taxes this year with my accountant, and I was actually happy for once. So that was nice.
That's good. Yeah, I love it.
All right, and maybe let's talk about some things that business owners as far as struggles.
Wow, this is a long list, but I'm only going to pick 3 things that I think, because this could go on. I mean, I could talk about this so long. So I would say somebody who's considering opening a business, number one, understand, and this is before the tips, is just understand there's a lot that goes into a business. I see people, they invest so much time having a logo, picking a location, getting colors, and all these great and fun things, which is wonderful to do, but it should start with the infrastructure, right? The foundation. So number one, you got to set aside at least 2 years of your annual income. That's cash liquid. Because you alluded to it earlier, Lance, not just in construction industry, but in any industry that you're going to start a business. The average business takes 3 to 5 years before it starts to be, operating in the black. So understand that your business is going to be like 85% of the other businesses. You're probably not going to take a paycheck the first few years. So prepare for that. Start planning for that. If you really want to own a business and thrive, not just survive, but thrive, understand that, because the worst position to be in is trying to make money and you're worried about the light bill and you're worried about the little things happening. There's no way for you to be able to really concentrate and focus on your business and your clients and what you're trying to do. So that's first. Second, I'll tell you, this is a big one. This is huge, especially for my construction industry. Please, please, please hear me when I say this. Proper entity selection. Proper entity selection or improper entity selection can make or break you. And this is what I mean by that. If you are operating as a sole proprietor. Now, with this being said, I'm not a CPA, so this is not tax advice. What I'm just bringing your awareness to it, just understand if you're a sole proprietor and you are in an industry that has a lot of exposure, you're going out to job sites. There are things that are, Lance just had some little issue tripping. I don't know what happened to you. Some knocking on your head or something, right? The other day. Oh, that, yeah. So anyhow, things can happen. If you're in that kind of an industry, you're very, very open to exposure and litigation. And if you are a sole proprietor, there's no corporate veil between you and your personal assets. And by the way, also opening up for that additional self-employment tax. So I see this with brand new contractors, but I see this with contractors that have been in the industry 20, 30 years, and they have huge companies and many employees, and they're traveling around. They don't understand it's not just about the additional taxation that they're paying, but they're also have that additional exposure. So that's a big, big thing. I feel like you want to say something there.
No, it's just that you work so hard and you put so much on the line. Like, you have to protect yourself. It just doesn't make sense not to.
Yeah, for sure. And then the third one is really not putting the proper infrastructure in place. And with this one, I'm going to tell you a story. I have a client who I've known them. I knew them probably 15 years. I started with them when I just had started in the business and talked to them about setting up some things. They're a plumber, husband and wife, and they had more like subcontractors. They never really had employees. Their sons kind of worked a little bit in the business. And every year I do the review with them, and we talk about setting up some things and putting some succession planning and exit planning and all of these things in place. But every year it was, we don't have the money, maybe 6 months, maybe next year. And they're working hard, doing all the things right that all of my self-employed business owners do. And then what happened is, out of nowhere, they landed a government contract. They were cash flowing over $1 million. They went from zero to hero, literally. It seems like overnight, but they'd been working for probably 10 years on their business that I knew them, probably 20 years into this. And then what happened is they didn't have the infrastructure in place. So guess what happened? They found themselves into litigation. They found themselves into liability. They find themselves into trouble with their taxes and their payroll because they didn't have the infrastructure in place. After a few years of that, so I'm trying to help them. And at this point, they're like, we got to put out this fire. We got to put out that fire. Yes, Lee, we want to do it. But, call us back again 6 months or a year. Well, he unfortunately suffered a heart attack about 2 years ago. They had a small life insurance policy. They had $500,000 in coverage, but they took out an SBA loan because they felt they needed to kind of, and remember, they're putting $1 million a year in their pocket. So they took out this SBA loan, and SBA requires that you have a life insurance policy to back it. So instead of having $500,000, now his life insurance was reduced to about $160,000. And I urged them when they did that, I'm like, no, let's put a separate policy to cover that. They felt that they couldn't afford it. He passed away of a heart attack. And unfortunately, we know what happens here. Here the wife is now struggling. She only received about $160,000 in life insurance. Now she's got contracts that she doesn't have the cash flow to be able to fulfill. Her sons reluctantly came into the business to help her. They know the business, but that's not their forte. That's not really what they want to do. So they helped her to kind of finish up some of the contracts. So now she's got this incredible contracts, but nobody to facilitate this. So when I say to you, you're working so hard, one day out of the blue, your business will go from zero to hero. So what I implore you to do is to establish your team of professionals. I call it the 4 pillar professionals you need on your team, which is your CPA, which, by the way, that CPA should be a specialist in your industry. Just because your chiropractor down the streets recommended you to them, if they're not familiar with your industry, they're probably not the right match for you. So number 1, establish your CPA. Number 2, you need an estate planning attorney. I know you're like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? How? Because that's going to help you to start planning for your exit. I know you think you're going to work in this business forever, but something's going to happen where you can't, right? And then you need to establish a tax attorney, because when's the worst time to look for a tax attorney? Is when you need one. And then you need a relationship with a life and health agent who can offer you things that a wealth management cannot. They don't have the licensings, they don't have the contracts. So I call it the 4 pillar professionals, because those 4 pillar professionals should be coordinating. They should be collaborating, working together to strategize and bring you the best solutions right to you. So that's the 3 tips. Number 1 is have an emergency fund, 2 to 3 years of your annual income, even more than that. Number 2, proper entity selection. Sit down and really understand the difference between sole proprietor and setting up a corporation. Number 3 is having access to the 4 pillar professionals. We call it a virtual family office. So that's probably like taking a drink out of a fire hose, but give me some feedback there.
Yeah, so talk about virtual family office. I know you mentioned that when we first met, and that's your role. You're facilitating your advice. Somebody hits you up in the messages. You guys have a dialogue going, and they want to meet. What can they expect to happen next?
So the first step is we do a full intake. I'm going to look at everything that they're spending, because there may be things they're overspending or they're double covered and they're unaware of, right? There may be programs like, for example, a lot of people are not even aware that there's an additional provision in the Affordable Care Act that will allow for business owners to provide benefits at almost no cost to them. And by the way, also reduce their workers' comp. So little things like that you may not be aware of that can create more value, help to reward, recruit, and retain your top talent. So I'm going to look at everything that they're spending, and then we're going to have some. It's an analysis, and then it will show me some areas that you might be exposed. And I really like to know, what is the end? Do they plan to sell the business? Are they going to have somebody take over the business that's currently working for them? Is it going down to one of their children or their grandchildren? Are they going to franchise? Like, what is your exit plan for this business? How are you going to someday retire? Because if you plan to sell it, there's some things they're planning that you got to put in place before the day you put the for sale sign. It doesn't just happen that you put the for sale sign and then, people come out of the woodwork to try to buy your business.
Yeah, wonderful. I implore everybody to reach out to Leah, connect with her. And she's a great person first and foremost, so that's already enough reason. But she could definitely help you save, keep, earn more of that hard-earned money that you guys are there working so damn hard for.
That's right. Let's keep more and give Uncle Sam less. Right? We don't mind paying our fair share of taxes, but we don't want to overpay our fair share of taxes.
Oh yeah, that uncle never forget to visit.
Yeah, he never forgets.
Well, that was fun. I was a little nervous. I was like, finance, that's not necessarily my space, but I felt comfortable knowing that you were here.
Oh, good. Hopefully everyone can hear us because I feel like we're keep cutting out. I don't know if it's you or me. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I'm able to. Yeah, I've been able to hear everything
Really?
pretty good.
Okay. Well, how about some closing thoughts, Lance? Do you think this would be helpful for the
Clothing.
people in your sector?
Definitely. I mean, I think talking about the risk of becoming disabled or unable to work for certain periods. I mean, we're basically the poster child for that.
Yeah,
So prepare before you need it.
right. For sure. And you'll never be younger or healthier than you are today.
I might be able to get healthier, but I can't get younger.
You haven't figured that out yet? So I have a question for you, Lance. I didn't know
You
you were
know,
going to turn the table on me today. I thought I was interviewing you. I didn't know you're interviewing me.
I thought we
But
were
I
just
have a
having a
question for
conversation.
you. I have a question for you. What is something that people don't know about you? I mean, I feel like people know so much about you. You're so transparent on all of your interviews and you just always have so much fun. But what's something that people don't know about you?
People don't know that unless I'm working on a weird project for in the field, I get 8+ hours of sleep a day. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I do.
Wow. How do you do that? Because I
Discipline.
see you everywhere. I mean, I see you everywhere. Literally, I see you everywhere. How do you do that? Do you have a sleep schedule? Do you have an alarm that goes off? Like seriously, how do you do that?
Well, I learned it from Jesse Hernandez, but I have a list of things that I'll do for that day, and that's it. Once I'm done with it, I'm
That's
not
it.
adding to it because I cleared something faster. Like that's time that I picked up for myself, not time to throw another task in there.
That is so good. That is so, so good. So you have a work schedule. Yeah,
Yep. Otherwise, it'll go on forever. You could always be
that's right.
tinkering or playing catch up, and you'll never get there.
Okay, so how many things, or do you have a limit to how many things you put on that to-do list for the day?
I usually have 10 things on there, and these aren't things like update my calendar. These are actual tasks that require thought and action.
Money making. Yeah,
So 10 is my number, and if I don't make it, I just roll it over to the next day. So it's not
right.
it's enough to push myself, but not stress myself out over.
Wow, that's good. And then do you put it hour by hour? Or I've seen like Ed Milet teaches about the mini days where it's like 6 a.m. to 12, 12 p.m. to 6, 6 p.m. to midnight. Do you do kind of a breakdown, like get so much in the morning, or do you have it like out, like how do you schedule your day?
I use something called a Trello board, so you can slide the tasks up and down or to other
Right.
columns. So something might seem important in the morning, turns out something's become more important, so I slide that to the top. And
Okay.
I've really tried to get out of the habit of like multitasking because when I do that, I'm not getting a lot done. I'm just floating from thing to thing.
That's right. There's no real such thing as multitasking. So this is interesting. I love Trello. I don't use it for that, but let me ask you, do you color code it or what do you do with it?
I do. It's color coded. And one of the categories that I have is called doing now, which means if I'm working on that, I'm not working on anything else. Because that's, again, my downfall. I just want to do something that seems more fun, but I have to get this thing done. Like I can't play around. And, Jesse introduced me to a color category called Curveball, which is, this was not in my plans today at all. It popped up. It became really important. And sometimes it's a phone call. Sometimes it's an action that needs to happen. But if you keep seeing like, hey, every time Lance calls me, he leaves me with a curveball item to take care of right now.
Right.
Like maybe I'm not going to answer the phone every time Lance calls. Maybe I'll tell him to text me.
Right. Oh, it's him. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you never know.
That is so gold. That is really, really gold. I think that people don't, it's like a blind spot. They don't understand themselves enough to even have some kind of a tracking system, because there's multiple ways to do that. I have something similar. I don't use Trello, but I understand the concept of it. I've used it for other things. And color coding for me is very, very huge. And I agree to have a limit. I have my top 3. So every night I put down my top 3 that I have to get done. But obviously there are more things. But I think if you don't have a strategy, then everything becomes important. And if everything's important, then nothing's important. Right? Everything's a curveball. Everything will be a squirrel and you'll be chasing everything. You'll be busy as opposed to doing what's important and really moves the needle.
Yeah, you can't drive from the back seat, right? You need the steering wheel, so you have to be in control.
Yeah, for sure. Good stuff. Well, this was a lot of fun. It's always so much fun to see. I'm hoping to see you in person, though. Again, in person someday, soon, I hope. You're right down the road.
I'll have more time towards the end of the year. That's part of my efficiency, not driving. We'll eat virtually. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm working on less field stuff at the end of the year, so we'll definitely get together.
Yeah. You're the only person I know that loves KFC as much as I do.
I was thinking about it today, but maybe for
I was
dinner.
thinking about it last night preparing for this. Good stuff. Well, do you have any final closing thoughts, Lance?
No, that was it. I've run out of thoughts. That's all I have. Okay. KFC.
Limited.
Finger looking good.
Limited synapses. Once we go off into the food, forget it. Then we become foodies and all of that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I discovered a great place you would love. It's called Crown and Anchor here in Monterey. When you come, maybe we'll do a KFC. Maybe we'll go there. They have Taco Tuesday. Dude, Taco Tuesday with crab, avocado, 3 big tacos, $12. I'm telling you, oh my gosh.
These things are good because I don't like bougie tacos. I like my stuff on the streets.
These are good. More like street tacos.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, they're so, yeah. I'm always like, where's our street taco here? No, you got to go all the way into Seaside to get a street taco. There's no street tacos here.
Yeah. All right. Good deal.
All right, well, that's it for us for Wealthy Wednesday. Thank you so much for your time, Lance. We appreciate you taking time away from your busy schedule to be with us here today. And reach out to Lance, connect with him. Even if you're not in his industry, I'm telling you, the guests that he has, the value that he brings, you will learn so much from him about how to do your social media and just about life and strategies in general. So we will see you all at the top because we all know it's way too crowded at the bottom. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, yeah.